Hey, what's going on, guys? Today I have a pretty special video. It's gonna be in relation to like my Ancient Gear deck profile I uploaded recently, and it's gonna be a hand testing video and like a combo video, and more just like showing what the deck can do and how it breaks boards and how it functions. Because Ancient Gears, like there's a lot of decks that do very like simple plays, and Ancient Gear's end goal is simple, but getting there can be kind of tricky. So like there's some pretty intricate plays you can do, and I just want to show them off and show the test hands of the build and how consistent it can be. And yeah, so if you like Ancient Gears, please be sure to like this video, maybe subscribe. This is the same list as my deck profile. However, I have swapped Book of Moon for Forbidden Chalice because I feel like Forbidden Chalice, especially against like the degenerate cards like VFD and Zexal, it's much better. And as well as there's a lot of interactions where you need them to have a face-up monster on the field for your Ballista effect, so I feel like Chalice fits the deck a lot better. Come March, and whenever we get a new ban list, I should have a new deck profile for this deck with updated changes after even more testing, and I should have like a channel update video sort of soon because there's some things that I should probably talk about. So yeah, let's just get into it. I am going to have to play Upside Down, which is always fun for me because, yeah, it's always an interesting time since I'm not used to it, but let's just go with the first hand. We're going to accept how the deck handles everything, bricks and all. So we start with the driver, which is just fantastic. Such a great card. One Anchor Drill, Urgent Schedule, and Box, and another Urgent Schedule. So this hand's weird, however, it is great. We are hard go second, so we're going to draw a 6 card being Extravagant. So that's pretty nice. Since this is hard go second, if I draw like board break cards, I will play assuming breaking a board, but otherwise I just want to show you what the deck can do. So obviously here we're going to start with the Extravagance in the main phase. And here's the extra deck. I have all 15 cards in here. I'm just going to shuffle this up. It was randomized and already, and I'm just going to take the top 6 after I'm done shuffling it. And we just are now going to pray to the Extravagance gods and hope that we don't get completely blasted. So an Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem gets banished, a Chaos Ancient Gear Giant, the Megaton, one Verte, one Ballista, and a Dugaris. So this banish hurt us literally 0%, which is great, and why Extravagance is so good in the build is it's so rare that you actually are affected by Extravagance. And we're going to draw 2 cards, Dairy Crane and Chalice. So that's really good, because now we do draw some board breaks, so now we can Chalice. You know, if they save VFD because they're afraid of Gamma, then you can Chalice that there. You can Chalice Dryden, Zeus, Chalice whatever you want to on their board. So we have managed to play through a negate, and then we Urgent Schedule. So yeah, if Chalice was something like Lightning Storm that I mentioned in my deck profile over Book of Moon, and you needed to pop their monsters and it actually resolved, you couldn't Urgent Schedule, which is why I choose to play cards like Chalice and or Book of Moon. So we're going to Urgent Schedule. We already have an Anchor Drill, so that's interesting, but it's not really going to change the fact that we are going to 100% get Trencher. And we should probably still get an Anchor Drill just because. Where is it at? Right here. And there we go. Urgent Schedule has resolved, and now we're going to go into best card Ballista. Ballista just being probably the best card in the entire extra deck. So important. And Ballista is going to search us a Gear Town. There is Gear Town. So now we're going to activate the Gear Town. And because we use Chalice over something like Book of Moon, we can activate Ballista to target their monster and make it 0 attack and defense, and then Gear Town will activate. So we are going to get Ancient Gear Wyvern, and we're going to activate Wyvern as Chainlink 1 and Chainlink 2 Dairy Crane. Dairy Crane at this point doesn't have like a super big purpose because we've already made Ballista, but it is an extender to make Verte, so that's very good. Wyvern is going to activate, and I kind of want to get a frame because that will do what the deck needs to do. So this hand isn't going to be too fancy. Normally I'd box for frame, but we already drew the box. Like we drew box and driver, and we're still going to get to pretty much like turbo game. So now we are going to banish the Trencher to special the Anchor Drill, who will activate and special our frame. We're going to discard the driver to activate our frames effect because that sounds pretty good to me. And we're going to add probably Ancient Gear Fusion. That sounds quite nice. We do want to get that over Ancient Gear Golem. So yes. Let's see here. This is going to be a fun one because I'm trying to end on Dugaris, Ancient Gear Giant, and Verte. So how we're going to get there from here is obviously we can't go for Giant with the Ancient Gear Fusion, so we're going to have to make Howitzer, who luckily was not banished off of this, but you just needed one of these. You could do it with Megaton as well. So we're going to go and we're going to Fusion the box and the frame into Howitzer. Actually, you can also use the Ballista for the Megaton that I was talking about earlier, but yeah, we're just going to do this for Howitzer. And then Howitzer is going to burn for 1k, which is very nice. We use the Fusion. And then from here, we can go into Dugaris. Are we going to get there? Yeah, we're going to get there. Okay, that's good. I'm just having some thoughts in my head because this, like drawing the box and the driver made this hand a little less playable than you'd want it to, but we're still going to get exactly where we want to be. And now here, we can go into Verte, Anaconda, which is very, very good. So yeah, I should have put the Dairy Crane in attack. I failed to notice that earlier, which is unfortunate, but yes. And then we're going to activate Verte to banish a Ballista, Howitzer, frame, and box off of our Overload Fusion that we're going to send from our deck. Right here. And then Overload resolves as Verte's effect, and we get Chaos Ancient Gear Giant. We use Dugaris, target our Ancient Gear Giant. He's 9k attack, and because of Ballista's effect earlier, they have a 0 attack monster, and we just swing with him and attack for game. So, yep, pretty fairly simple. It wasn't anything super crazy that game. It was just a little weird because we had to use Howitzer as an extender, which I mentioned in my deck profile that sometimes you do have to use Howitzer as sort of a strange extender just to fill up your grades for Overload. So I'm glad that the first test hand could actually show that in action because it doesn't actually happen often, but we just had driver and box in our hand, which made it a little weird. So yep, on to the second test hand. That one was pretty good. I'd say that was more of an average hand with like Urgent Schedule. Usually you can go much farther, but we did draw 2 bricks. But even drawing 2 bricks, we still drew like absolute game. So that's very nice. On to the next hand, we're going to have an Anchor Drill, an Ancient Gear Fusion, a Terraforming, a Trencher, oh that's super cool, a Gear Town, and for our 6th card, a Fortress. Okay. So we're actually not going to have super great board break, but we did draw playable as long as everything goes nice. So we're going to activate the Fortress, first of all. That's the first thing we're going to do is activate Fortress. Then we'll summon Anchor Drill, activate his effect to Special Trencher. Easy link there for Ballista. And Ballista is actually going to add an Ancient Gear monster to our hand because we opened 2 Gear Town already. So we can search box for frame is a pretty good one. And that's what I'm going to do. So we're going to grab the frame out of here because that's what box is going to search. Here's box. And this just gets 1 Ancient Gear, like an extra Ancient Gear name to our hand. So that's very nice. Next we're going to activate the Gear Town and use Gear Town's effect, pitching it, and activate Ballista to special summon our Ancient Gear Wyvern. Wyvern's going to activate and it's going to add Ancient Gear Fusion because we don't actually have a way to special the frame due to the, or not Ancient Gear Fusion because we already have Fusion. Okay, that gives us some options. So we can do a couple of things here. We can add Catapult for like follow-up stuff in case we don't kill them. But if we could special frame somehow, we can actually discard the catapult and use its effect this turn, but we're not going to be able to do that. So we can add like catapult because we have everything we need already. And then you can go into Ancient Gear Fusion, and you can like Golem here, but there's no real reason to do that. So I'm going to go into Howitzer once again, who is coming up again, actually, which I rarely make this card, so I'm glad to see him like coming up in these games. This is our hand, which you're going to terraforming for a Gear Town, obviously, but then we're going to go, and you can either keep Howitzer on the board, but we're not going to do that. We're actually going to take Ballista and Howitzer, and we're going to make Verte, who's going to dump Overload, and we're going to get the Chaos Ancient Gear Giant. We did burn 1,000, and we get 4,500 damage just off of the Chaos Ancient Gear Giant, so I'm going to do that play real quick, and we'll calculate the damage. Send Overload off of Verte. Banish, 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 banish. Send the Overload. Summon Chaos Ancient Gear Giant. And they are at 7,000 life points maximum right now. This is 6,200, 6,700, so we would actually put them at 300 if they only have one monster, which is very unfortunate, but means they can't activate any effects that pay life points or anything like that, which is very cool. And then you still have follow-up and you have a fortress, which is very nice, but this actually isn't lethal. If they had two monsters, it's turbo lethal, right? Like, yeah, it's mega lethal, but under the assumption they only have one monster, that's actually not lethal, which is unfortunate, but it's just because we couldn't, like, drawing the Trencher. Oh, you know what? I actually misplayed that hand. Okay, so because we have Trencher and Anchor Drill in our graveyard, we can actually banish the Trencher for Anchor Drill and use this defense position Anchor Drill as a material for the Verte and leave Howitzer in attack, and then it's turbo game. Okay, so the hand was game. I actually just misplayed. Okay, that's good to know. Knowing that I misplayed isn't great, but that hand was still game. We didn't have any board break that hand, so it was going to be a little rough no matter how you slice it. But yeah, that was the second hand. So yeah, honestly the deck hasn't bricked yet, so that's great. The hands have been interesting. I would like to see maybe a Catapult Gear Town opening. I actually haven't played with Ancient Gears in probably like a couple weeks, so this is a nice way for me to sort of get back into like doing the combos and stuff. And it is a very hard go second deck, so it's kind of hard to show hand test videos because you know, usually you're playing through a board and interaction, which is why we run board break cards. But yeah, just showing what the deck can do when you're going second. So, because a lot of people just, when they hear Ancient Gears, they think, oh, the deck's just going to brick all the time. But no, it's usually very playable. And it can even break very massive boards and still get through them as well. So, next hand, Pot of Extravagance, a Reactor Dragon, an Overload Fusion, a Catapult, another Catapult, and our draw for going second is Frame. So seeing Catapult Frame isn't too bad, but my hope is off this Extravagance we managed to find Gear Town, because that would be fantastic. If we don't, this is looking like the most turbo brick of all time because Reactor and Overload and double Catapult is quite interesting, and not very good. So this Extravagance really has to work. We're going to banish top 6. Yeah, nothing very detrimental there. We did lose all of our little Ancient Gear extenders that we don't play 3 of, which is, it could cause a problem, but really it's all based off these 2 draws. We draw a Chalice, which is pretty nice, and an Ancient Gear Golem. So this is a turbo brick. We're just going to put that back instantly. There's no way to win that game, essentially, which we just drew like 4 bricks, and we run like not that many. So that, we're gonna wrap that one up to unfortunate, which, I mean, not every hand is going to win. It wouldn't be a true hand test video if every hand was perfect. Like, I would just assume the video was edited if every hand was 100% playable. That was definitely one of the worst hands. Like, you could summon Frame, pitch Catapult, but we didn't see an extender to make Ballista, so tough, but that is the way the cookie crumbles. So I'm gonna go into our next hand, and we're gonna draw Catapult, Wyvern, Imperm, Gear Town. Oh, there we go. Urgent Schedule. Oh, this hand is Turbo Gas. And for going second, Extravagance. Well, this hand is bonkers. So, like in Standby Fade, you can imperm whatever threat they have. And then you can activate Pot of Extravagance in your main phase. So we're going to do the nice, you know, because this hand's so good, I actually expect this Extravagance to completely kill us. But, so if you saw the first hand, and like you, I've been watching the video and you saw the first hand I did with just one Urgent Schedule, this hand goes actually super insane. And you can kind of do what you did with the first hand, except make a second Chaos Ancient Gear Giant. But I expect Extravagance to actually hit us here really bad, because it's just karma for drawing this good. One Verte, Howitzer, Chaos Ancient Gear Giant, Ballista, Chaos Ancient Gear Giant. Is this a third? Oh, just two Gars. Okay, so Extravagance did like nothing to us. We can't make two Chaos Ancient Gear Giant, but that is really not too important. And we're going to draw two cards. Wow, that's pretty insane. And another Extravagance, which is just going to be a discard off of frame. Normally they would just ash the Extravagance, so drawing Gamma here isn't the greatest, but if they were saving it for whatever reason, we can Gamma, like when we Urgent Schedule. This hand is so turbo good, but I'm going to play like Extravagance is going to do nothing here. Gamma's going to do nothing here because the board would just be so complicated. This could be like an 8-minute hand, but you essentially get to make Scrap Dragon or swing for extra damage or make Burrito. So starting off, we're going to Urgent Schedule. No, we're not. That is the silliest thing I've ever said. We're going to activate Gear Town. And we're not going to Urgent Schedule first, simply because of the fact that Catapult to activate, you need no monsters. So we're going to activate Catapult. Say they only had one monster here. You wouldn't be able to Urgent Schedule after you Catapult, right? So what we're going to do is, because we've met the activation requirements of this card, we can actually chain an Urgent Schedule. And now both of these cards' activation requirements have been met, so they will both resolve. We're going to special Anchor Drill and Trencher. Activation requirements are, like it says, while you control no monsters, colon. If your opponent controls more monsters than you do, colon. When it's a line of text and colon, that means it's an activation requirement, and you just need to have that fulfilled to activate the card, and then it should resolve properly. So Urgent Schedule resolves, and then Catapult's going to pop Gear Town. And we are going to special summon Ancient Gear Golem, most obviously, because Catapult is the only card that can do that, and it's very, very good. I don't know why I'm sending him to grave. That would be the most unfortunate thing to happen ever. And then Gear Town's going to resolve, and we're going to special. Let's go with Frame, because we already have Wyvern. But there's a lot you can do with this hand, so yeah, let's just try to get there. We're going to discard Extravagance off of our frame and activate its effect to search Ancient Gear Fusion. Then we can link here to make, this is banished, my bad, to make our Ballista. And Ballista is going to add Gear Town. So let's go grab Gear Town, activate Gear Town, and we're going to pop the Gear Town to make one of their monsters 0 attack and 0 defense, letting our Chaos Ancient Gear Giant absolutely wreak havoc on our opponent. And now off of this, we're going to special summon Reactor Dragon, because it's just going to be a big beat stick by the end of it. And then we're going to banish the Trencher to special summon the Anchor Drill. Anchor Drill is going to activate and special summon our Ancient Gear Wyvern, who is going to activate, and I think it's going to add Fortress. So let's do that. And then Fortress is going to protect us from things. We might not even need it at this point, but you have everything else, so there's no reason to go anything else. Man. We're only going to be able to make one Chaos Ancient Gear Giant, so there's no reason to make Verte in this hand, but if you did happen to not banish two Chaos Ancient Gear Giant and you banish two Ballista or something, your board is absolutely insane. But this is what we're going to work with here. We're going to Ancient Gear Fusion, using the Ancient Gear Golem. So we're going to send Box, and that's a Dairy Crane, and Wyvern, and Frame from our deck, and we are going to make Chaos Ancient Gear Giant, who is, of course, as you've seen, the main boss monster of the entire deck. So where you end with here, if you have two Chaos Ancient Gear Giant banished like we do in this scenario, is you make Dugaris right here, and you make Dugaris right here, and you boost this to 9k and you swing for game. And that's very obvious to see where this hand normally would have ended up. But I'm going to pretend that we banished a second Ballista over Chaos Ancient Gear Giant just to see where like the ceiling of this deck really goes, because this really is the deck ceiling, minus using this Gamma, which then it's just insane. But then we go and we use the Ballista and the Anchor Drill to make Verte. And then we're going to use these two, which we should have sent these to make Verte instead, because then you make sure you have 4 in graveyard, but we know we already have 4 because we used the Ancient Gear Fusion. To make Dugaris, this is my main deck, which is very cool. Dugaris, and then we activate Verte to send Overload Fusion. Overload Fusion is going to resolve as Verte's effect, and we're going to banish 4 Ancient Gear monsters, being Ballista, Frame, Wyvern, and Box. Sometimes I like to leave Ancient Gear Golem in the graveyard just in case I make Megatons somehow. And then we're going to special summon a second Chaos Ancient Gear Giant, and this is 100% this deck's ceiling, is Fortress with Verte, Reactor, double Chaos Ancient Gear Giant, and Dugaris, which you make one of these 9k, and there's no way this like just straight up isn't game. This is insane damage. Like if they have multiple monsters, just this one Chaos Ancient Gear Giant is going to win. Honestly, all you need is this one Chaos Ancient Gear Giant to swing over their 0 attack monster for 9k for game, but this is just overkill to show what the deck can do. You can even go like super crazy and swing with Reactor, pop your own Fortress in the battle phase, and like special a Wyvern and swing for even more damage, but that's just unnecessary. So yeah, I think I'm going to end the video here because this was a fantastic hand showing the deck ceiling. So we got like 2 average hands, a brick, and the deck ceiling. So I think for a hand test video, that's about as good as you get. Do stay tuned for more Ancient Gear content, because I will have an updated list soon enough. Just probably going to do it around ban list time. No reason to update it until then. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. This was Top Tier Gaming, and bye YouTube.